Lorna Murphy, Director of Buses for TfL, thank you very much for doing this interview. We want to get straight into the subject that's caused the most shock, I think, which is toilet facilities. Bus drivers have been telling us that they have to go to the loo in a bottle, upstairs in their cab or in a bush. How can this possibly be happening?
I mean, toilet facilities are really important for everyone, aren't they? A basic hygiene factor, and we totally understand that. There's been lots of investment in recent years, bringing in more toilet facilities for people at ends of routes, midpoint changeovers, wherever they might be. And we really do understand that people do need access to toilet facilities. We've got a priority list that we have identified with Unite the Union and our bus operators, and we're working through that. But it's really important that people can access toilets.
I mean, if you think about women bus drivers, if they're on a menstrual cycle, how are they getting by day, month by month?
So there are toilet facilities available and they are being used. It is really important that if there are any problems with those toilet facilities, we obviously get told about them, but we have a very good cleaning regime and we work with the operators as well to make sure that everyone knows where they are, how they can access them.
So when will every bus route have a suitable toilet facility?
So every bus route, apart from 5, currently has access to a toilet facility that is suitable, and those remaining 5 are being planned in for this year.
So that means you'll be building them a portable toilet, or will it be some other facility?
So each one will have its own dedicated facility. It could be different styles, but they will all have a suitable toilet facility.
So when you say suitable toilet facility, sometimes that means bus drivers will be on their break and they have to walk perhaps 7 minutes to get somewhere like, say, Chessington World of Adventures or somewhere like that, and they have to ask to use their toilets. Is that what you call a suitable toilet facility?
So a suitable toilet facility is something that's available 24/7 for drivers on the route to use. We may not be able to always put it on the bus stand itself, and that could be due to a planning restriction, particularly if a stand is maybe on a residential road, for example, but making sure that they know where to go and how to get there is the most important thing.
And do you recognise that that eats into their break?
So if there is any walking time required, that's built into the schedules for drivers, and they can also let their controller know, and then if they need more time, they can have it.
Okay. Can you just explain to people, you've obviously got contracts with lots of bus operators, so you don't actually run the buses, the operators do, but you're the customer, aren't you? So how do you enforce what you're asking them to do?
So we have a contract management regime in place, which means that we check what they're doing, that they're doing it the way that we would want them to do it, and we work with them regularly to make sure that that is the case. We look at changing schedule conditions, and we'll work with them on making changes to those if the road conditions have changed, or maybe emergency schedules are required for a roadworks scenario or something like that. But we work very closely with the bus operators to make sure that the outcomes are what we would want them to be.
Do you think they're doing a good job?
I do. I mean, bus operators are not there to do a bad job, and I think actually, they are wanting to do the right things and trying very hard to do well in a difficult operating environment. London is a difficult operating environment, but everyone is working together to try and make the outcomes for bus drivers be the best they can be.
And at least somewhere to go to the toilet.
Yes, absolutely.
So the Mayor of London was in the London Assembly saying publicly that he was very shocked by some of the reporting he'd seen. Were you shocked by some of it as well?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, nobody should have to go to a toilet in a scenario as has been described. And it was a shock given that we do have toilet facilities on all but 5 routes. And those 5 do have alternatives in terms of local shops or restaurants or whatever. But, I certainly never want anybody to have to do that.
Bus drivers say that they've been talking about this since about 2018 or even earlier. So that's why I feel there was a disconnect between the shock and what they've been going on about for so many years, though.
Well, there's been a dedicated programme of investment since 2017 where several £1 million have been spent putting in new toilet facilities. So I can certainly appreciate that back then there would have been more to say about it.
We cannot have escaped the fact that there's been 3 consecutive heat waves and that heat waves are now going to be a common thing. And bus drivers are telling us that their cabs can go up to 40 degrees Celsius. How on earth can that be allowed to happen?
I mean, this summer has been quite exceptional in terms of the weather, hasn't it? And where we've seen previous summers where you might get a few hot days and then it cools off again, we haven't had that this year. There's been no let-up. And that's really hard for everybody to deal with personally, but it's also difficult for vehicles, for systems and things like that, where they're having to run a lot more than normal. So we, over the last few years, have changed our vehicle specification. We've brought in better, more highly rated air conditioning for drivers in their cabs and also for customers in the saloon area of the vehicle. I'm conscious that, of course, it is really difficult because buses have so many windows on them, doors are opening and closing regularly, so keeping the temperature cool like you might consider air conditioning in your car, for example, is difficult. But our newer specification does go a lot further than what was there before, and we have got really good feedback from drivers that are driving those vehicles, which is really positive. But that doesn't take away from the fact that clearly there are lots of drivers out there who've had a really challenging few weeks. So we've been working really closely with them, with Unite the Union, and the bus operators, making sure that their hot weather plans are implemented and that we're doing as much as we possibly can. And we've actually introduced a new task force now where we met for the first time last week, and we've got a regular frequency moving forwards, and it won't stop when we come to the end of the summer. Cold weather can also be extreme, of course, and we'll keep going until we have the right conditions for everybody. But it was a really positive first meeting in that we got some very good, clear actions. That's all working now, and we're looking to bring back more information about the next one next week. So I totally understand how difficult it has been, and I thank everybody for all their efforts during the hot weather because it's been exceptional.
So you clearly want to sort this out. You want drivers to have the right air conditioning and ventilation, but what we're hearing on the ground is so different. You've got so many operators to deal with. We had a recording sent to us that one bus driver had contacted his official who basically laughed at him when he said, "The bus is too hot, I can't drive it," which was the mayor's advice. If the bus is too hot, you mustn't drive it. He was laughed at, and the official said, there are plenty of London buses without air conditioning. How do you sort those problems out? What's happening on the ground?
So I'd really encourage that driver to bring that recording to us so we can investigate it properly. I do think that the vast majority of people are trying to do the right thing, and it's possible that something's gone wrong here or something's been taken out of context. I don't know. But fundamentally, we've been very clear that people should be allowed to take a break if they need it, if they get too hot. We know that it's been really hot out there and the conditions in the cab are hot. People need to be able to take a comfort break if they need it, and that comfort break needs to be as long as they need to get back to a position to be able to drive.
So will you make sure that all buses have working air conditioning when the next heatwave comes?
So all buses have air conditioning of a degree within the driver's cab. The challenge is that the older buses' specification doesn't reduce the temperature enough when it's very hot, and so it feels like it isn't working. But what we are also doing is a series of audits of the vehicles to make sure that the tech is working as it should do. But one of the actions through the task force is to look at whether we can actually retrofit those older buses with the newer technology, which could be a good way of moving us forwards. But of course, doing that to several thousand buses won't be able to happen overnight. So we'll have to work through that as a programme. But I do think there's more coming, and we have more new buses coming every day as well. So the conditions will get easier.
It's a bit late for a lot of drivers, though, who've already suffered this summer, isn't it? Why is it taking so long?
So a vehicle in London is in London for around 15 years or so. So we still have vehicles, obviously, coming to the end of life now, which were on a specification that was well before any of this kind of weather was seen. But we are now working on it, and we are working collaboratively, I would say, across everybody, bus operators and Unite the Union, and we just really want to get the right outcomes for people out there.
Because since 2025, those figures that show that out of 700 odd checks, about 200 odd buses had some form of defects. That's like a third of the buses on the road have the AC not working.
It's some form of defect. It doesn't mean that the full AC is not working.
Okay, so you'll make sure that it gets working.
Yeah, and we do work with the operators on those results.
How does it work with penalties? If the operators aren't getting the AC working, what kind of penalties can you impose?
So there are financial penalties for them for mileage lost to the vehicle not running, for example. I have, since last year, removed The mileage penalties are around the driver. So in an amber heat warning, for example, there's no mileage penalty for a driver taking a comfort break. But the vehicle is very much for the operator to maintain. And so that is something that's deemed as being within their area of control, and there are penalties associated.
Do you feel angry when you see that bus drivers are suffering like that?
I don't think that anybody has set out for a driver to suffer, but the conditions this year have been particularly trying for everybody. And we've even seen air conditioning that has started off being working, but after several days has degraded because it's just not designed to be used for that amount of time. But we're all working together to make sure that drivers don't have to suffer in the future and that we can make it as comfortable as possible in the interim.
Heat waves are going to become more common, aren't they? That hot weather plan, is that an official document that the public can see, or is it an internal one?
So we have a comprehensive extreme weather plan for TfL. That doesn't cover bus drivers specifically, but the bus operators have their own weather plans.
Another big question is driver fatigue. So if a bus driver is suffering from fatigue and he's hot and he can't use the toilet, how is he supposed to drive the bus and keep passengers safe?
Well, a driver in that scenario should stop, first of all, and call the control centre for help. We are fully aware that fatigue is an issue. It's an issue in many industries. It's not only a bus issue, but clearly we're a safety critical industry, and therefore it really matters. And it's something we've been working on for a long time. There's been a lot of money invested into different things around education and health. There's also been things around technology. And what we're really trying to do is learn so we can have a data-driven approach to what we do next. And that's our entire approach for bus safety and all things safety in reality. So we want to know exactly what is causing it, when it's being caused. And the latest fatigue detection technology that we have installed on 400 buses will help us with that data. So we'll be able to see, for example, if it was to happen more likely on the second day back after your rest days, then perhaps that duty needs to be shorter or have more breaks in it or whatever it might be, but it will come from the data. At the moment, a lot of the information we have is subjective. It varies from person to person when you speak to it, and so we really want to gather that data so that we can do the right thing to improve fatigue.
Are these the cameras that you've got fitted in the cab?
Yes.
And if a driver looks like they're going to nod off, the seat vibrates? Is that what you're talking about?
If it captures a micro sleep, yes, it would do that.
How long will it take to establish from that data what needs to happen in terms of shift patterns?
So I think we just need a meaningful amount of data, and we'll use somebody who is an expert in statistics for that. But I would imagine it will be 6 to 12 months worth of good data capture, which will show us then what we need to do differently in the future.
I understand that you need data in order to make those decisions, but I suppose bus drivers and some people watching this might be, it's obvious, it's because the shifts are wrong, that's why they're tired, just change it now.
I definitely hear that, but I would say change them to what? Because you might make things worse by just making a knee-jerk change. So all the shifts are currently well within the domestic driver's hours regulations. There's nothing illegal about them. And actually the operators generally have much tighter parameters than the legal allowances. But we need to understand when fatigue is being triggered and what we can therefore meaningfully do.
And clearly, bus drivers are telling us that quite regularly they can feel themselves nodding off at the wheel. I mean, that's pretty terrifying to most people to hear that.
It is terrifying to hear, and it's certainly something we would like to see. We'd like to see it in the data. We do have one operator who's up and running with their detection technology, and we certainly are not seeing that it's regularly happening through that data.
So it might be route by route that you need to look at more closely to see.
It could be down to routes, it could be down to location, it could be down to any number of different factors in reality.
So not all of the operators have that technology fitted at the moment then?
One operator has it fitted on some of their vehicles, and it's in live mode. We have a number of operators who now have it fitted and is in shadow mode, or they're moving in that direction.
So that's where the 6 to 12 months comes in. Do you think you are really across the reality of working life for drivers? I mean, you were an operational manager for many years. You've been at the front line, you know what it is to run buses, to run routes, to look after drivers. Is TfL really in touch with the reality on the ground?
I believe we are, yes. So you're right that my history is very much operational. I have actually I do have my bus driver licence. I have driven buses in London, so I know for myself what it is like, and I have managed drivers for over 20 years. But I also stay in touch with that side of things now. So even though I now work at TfL, I do network visits regularly, and as part of that I will speak to bus drivers about what they're finding, how they interact with our colleagues in TfL and things like that. But yeah, it's very important to me to not lose that. And also when we meet the operators, as we regularly do, we do that on their premises, so we get to see how they're translating what they tell us in a boardroom to the front line, for example, and we again can talk to drivers. So I think that's really important.
Most of the time when we get interviews with bus drivers, they have to be completely anonymous. They are terrified of speaking openly and publicly because they're not allowed to speak about their company. But doesn't that say something that they don't feel confident, they don't feel protected to speak out?
That is not something I want to hear, and ultimately I think we've got a long way to go in terms of culture, and culture change is not a quick thing, as I think we all know. In the age of old, bus operations was almost quasi-military, I would expect, you know, a rule book and things like that. It was very discipline focused. I don't think that's the same today. It certainly wasn't when I was operational, and there's a lot of work going on to coaching, training, development, and actually encouraging people to speak up. But it will take time for people to trust that, and I do appreciate that. But we've been very clear that nobody would have any kind of repercussions for speaking out.
It must be harder to be a bus driver now than it was, say, 5-10 years ago. I mean, the roads have changed. There's 20-mile-per-hour limits. There's low traffic neighbourhoods. It's just a whole different ballgame now, isn't it?
I think being a bus driver is a super challenging job. It can also be incredibly rewarding, but there's no getting away from the fact you've clearly got lots of traffic, and yeah, you're navigating pedestrians, cyclists, other road users. There's lots and lots to think about at all times. But I think that's actually something that a lot of drivers thrive on, and you definitely see that, and lots of people will turn it into, you know, how they can help people today, and we get some great commendations about drivers too. So I think there's some great work that goes on out there, and we'd love drivers to be more commended. I saw a report outside of London that they're officially the most thanked profession, the most thanked profession outside of London, which I think is phenomenal. And actually, people in London don't necessarily register their bus driver, and it'd be great if they could, you know, just say hello when you get on, say thank you when you get off. It means a lot to a driver.
Everything that we're talking about today is about safety, isn't it? And one of the reasons why we started to pay more attention to bus drivers was because back in February there were 4 crashes in 1 month, which got our attention. And since there have been more, just last week there was one at Notting Hill. That's way too many, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to see collisions happen, clearly. Travelling by bus is actually the safest way to travel in London, but that doesn't mean we're where we want to be. We're clearly working to our Vision Zero ambition, where nobody should be killed or seriously injured on or by a bus. And so that's really important to us. And we're seeing good improvements in that space, but we're still not where we want to get to. So that's why we developed the Bus Safety Standard, which first launched in 2018. And we've just launched our newest stage of that in June, which goes and talks about what we're going to do in the next few years through to 2033 and the developments that will come through there. So we won't stop until we achieve our Vision Zero. It's very ambitious, but it's the right thing to do because nobody should not go home at the end of the day.
What's the key thing that you can do to prevent future crashes? What's the main thing?
I think one of the things that we're particularly excited about in the next stage of the Bus Safety Standard is some of the technology that will help drivers. So where it's maybe going to intervene if they have accidentally pressed the wrong pedal and bring the vehicle to a stop. I think that's quite exciting. But for me, one of the core roadmaps of the Bus Safety Standard 2 is actually about the driver's cab. So it's making sure the cab is inclusive, ergonomic, comfortable, safe, secure, makes them be able to do their job and be comfortable at it to the best of their abilities, really. And I think that's really important. So the driver is very much at the heart of that.
So all the things the bus drivers have been telling us about their welfare and their working conditions has an impact.
Yes, we've listened to them. And we've got data that proves what we should do, and we're going to go and deliver that.
Soon?
Yes.
The future, you've just told me what the future is. You've told me a bit about this task force. Mm-hmm. Is it time to also ask, does TfL pay the operators enough to run services both efficiently and safely for the welfare of bus drivers?
I think the cost of our contracts is made up of what it costs to operate the routes. So that will include the driver costs, their innovation costs, new vehicles, electric infrastructure, depot upgrades. It's all wrapped up in the cost of the tender. So the operators are in a position that they can then go and do more above that if they want to.
Since the pandemic, TfL lost money through the tube and other things, but the cost of running bus services has actually gone up because of all the factors we've talked about, 20 mile per hour zones, all of that kind of thing. So is profit, is money being put before driver welfare?
No, I would not say it is. I think it is true that the cost of contracts have gone up. We have a contract price adjustment mechanism which is related to CPI inflation, and clearly the last few years of wage bill increases have been significantly above that, which is why there's been cost pressures, but they've been reflected back in contracts with us, and the cost of the network has therefore grown. So there's nothing that's affecting the driver in that regard, I would say.
So if you change the shift pattern, you could still do it for the same cost?
Well, that would depend on what the change is, and there's lots of different ways you could do a change. So some things might require more drivers, some things might require fewer. It just depends on what the change is.
But you would be willing to pay more if the operators told you, well, we're going to need more money if we make these welfare changes?
Absolutely. So we've been very clear that the fatigue technology trial is linked to a rosters review, and if that data shows us that we need to do something with the rosters, that means we need more drivers, then that's what we'll do, because the data will tell us.
Okay. We've got a new Prime Minister, as you may have noticed.
Yes.
He really backs nationalisation. Do you think it's time for London's buses to be run by one company or by one local authority?
Well, as the Mayor himself has pledged, we are exploring a publicly owned bus company at the moment. So that was in our business plan. So we will see where we get to with that exploration.
Because at least then you can monitor things properly and you can make sure that working conditions are set for everyone to be the same.
If we were to do it ourselves, then clearly we'd have that ownership to do it ourselves. But I do believe that we have got good standards across the bus operation generally in London, and I think it's right that we continue to work really closely with our operators and unite the union to deliver more improvements.
What do you think about introducing this Bill of Rights that the bus drivers would like, which is 12 points, which set out everything we've kind of talked about today, makes it clear and simple rather than having to delve through employment law, nice and easy for the bus drivers to understand. The London Assembly voted unanimously for this. Should it happen?
Well, the Bill of Rights covers a series of bullet points, as you said, that already exist, whether it's health and safety legislation, employment law, or within our own contracts. That it's already there, so there's no need, in our opinion, to make any changes.
But as I've said, you have to look through employment law, and a bus driver might not potentially feel that he can do that or she can do that. Wouldn't this make it easier?
I don't think that bus drivers in particular look at the contracts that we have with the operators. At the end of the day, they want to know that they're working for a company, whether that's a private operator or a new publicly owned bus company that treats them right. And that's what's most important.
So the Bill of Rights might do that?
I don't believe it would make any difference, because everything in there is already in existence today.
If we were to interview you again in 12 months' time, what three improvements do you think would have been made by then?
Well, in 12 months' time, I think we'll have probably another several hundred new zero-emission buses on the network. So we'll be really far forwards in terms of decarbonising our network and all the emissions in London, which will be great. Those buses will have better air conditioning for drivers and for customers, and also the latest of our safety technology and systems as well. So that will be a really key step forwards. I think we'll have enacted where we get to with our actions from the task force, which will be a really positive step forward for everybody concerned. And I'd like to think that some of those would be replicated outside of London as well. And then finally, I think it would be great if, as I said, if we could see an increase in our commendations for drivers. They are doing an incredible job out there, and I would really like the public to just take a moment to recognise them.
So you can make those statements almost as a promise to bus drivers that things will improve?
I'm happy to do that.
In 12 months' time?
We'll be a lot further forwards in 12 months' time.
Okay, Lorna Murphy from TfL, Head of Buses, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.